Hello, welcome to Jason No Millennial. My name is Jason. Speaking here in my basement in the great state of Kansas, and I got two friends of mine, Scott from SoundLab Studios and Nick from Townsend 505, and Briar is here with us in spirit, I guess. Um, he's having some technical difficulties, but he would also join us usually on this, and we've been going through. Actually, me and Nick started this series a while ago, starting with 1960 and doing a top 10 favorite albums of each year, starting with 1960, and we finally got to 1969. We covered the whole 60s, covered a lot of different artists. We discovered a lot of new music, which is really what I wanted to do with this series, is discover new music and new artists I haven't delved into yet. And that's been such a blast, I think, for me doing that. Briar joined us in 65, I think, and then Scott joined us in 68 or something like that. So he covered the last 2 years of 60s, but he's pretty well versed in the 60s, so we put a list together. But yeah,
not as well as I thought I was. The last 2 years, I listened to a lot of albums.
Yeah, you did. You listened to a lot of new albums, didn't you? Or yeah. But yeah, so after we've gone through each year, I thought it'd be a good idea to go do some kind of retrospective of the whole decade before we go on to the 1970s, and kind of talk, of course, do our top 10 favorite albums of the decade itself. Look at our list, compile what were the best that we listened to. I think it'd be fun to look at. And I have a couple other categories I want to talk about first before we get into our top 10s, but I guess I'll first. How you guys doing, Scott and Nick?
You could go first, Scott.
I'm doing great. I'm ready to talk about the 1960s, top 10 albums, and then the 1970s is just around the corner. That's my favorite decade of music.
For me, doing great. Got out of my first day as a boiler operator officially, and the OKC is beating the Pacers right now, the team that beat my Knicks. So I'm very happy about that. Them and their devil magic could go away.
Feel the thunder.
Yeah, I don't mind it. I guess Oklahoma is like right between me and Scott's state, so we're like kind of close to Oklahoma City.
Oh yeah. So
we're
Jason,
in the middle.
If now's the time, if you want to get into an NBA team, OKC will be your team.
Yeah.
OKC is kind of the closest team to me. Like I would kind of be into, and I used to own a shirt, in fact, and I've gone to one NBA game, and it was an OKC game back when Kevin Durant played for him and Russell Westbrook. So that was actually pretty fun to see them. But
that shows how much I know about NBA. I was just about to ask, does Kevin Durant still play? Except I almost called him Duran Durant.
Durant. Kevin Durant, he's playing. He's gonna be playing for the Houston Rockets. He got traded from Phoenix.
Oh, I was gonna say he's playing for Phoenix, but I think he wants to be traded. So okay.
He got traded. He got traded today.
Oh, really?
If you're asking me, if they do make a 31st NBA team, it should definitely be the Kansas City.
Yes,
Kansas City. They definitely need an NBA team.
Yeah, definitely. All right, but so talking about our favorite albums from this decade, which is I don't know if it was hard for you guys to come up with it. I mean, of course, I went through each list and I just kind of picked the top 2, top 3 albums of each each year, and kind of was able to compile my list. And of course, obviously, the Beatles just dominated like crazy. I got like 5 Beatles albums, so I mean, they dominate. It's not gonna be like that too much, I don't think, for any of the decades. 60s is such a unique decade in that one band just dominated. I don't think another decade will be quite like that, which makes it interesting, I think.
Yeah, for the 60s, you're going to see a lot of albums by the same artist, and that's only because they're my favorite artist of all time. Any other decade, I'm going to try to pick several different artists to highlight. And I really wish that I could highlight some more artists on here, because there's a lot of great artists in the 60s, but when you've got, in my opinion, the greatest artist of all time, like,
right, yeah,
it's going to be a little difficult to fit some of the others in. And so, not going to lie, my top 4 is all the same artist.
Okay. Mine's similar. Nick probably has more of a variety, maybe not.
We'll see.
We'll see. So before we get into top 10, I thought it'd be interesting to kind of look at a couple things in the decade. First thing I wanted to ask is, what was a favorite album, new discovery or rediscovery of this decade for you?
Well, since I've been doing this with you, Jason, since
Yeah,
next year, I feel like I'm more inclined to say this.
Yeah.
That freaking album, the one album from, forgetting her name, At Last, I think it's called.
Oh, Etta James.
Etta James, At Last.
1960, yeah.
That was the biggest shock for me. I was not expecting it to be that as good as it was.
Yeah.
I love that album, and I was like, man, what a terrific discovery for me. And it would have never happened if Jason never came up with the idea of doing the top albums of 1960. So
Yeah.
I appreciate that. So you turned me into an Etta James fan. Well, I'm not a big fan, but those first two albums.
First two albums are pretty good, yeah.
Really good.
I agree. That was my favorite album, 1960.
I think I'm going to go with, and this was not in my top 2 from that year. I had a few that I ranked higher, but it's one that I've kind of listened to a lot. The one I ranked higher than it, I haven't listened to as much just because it's a long album. But I think I'm going to go with music from Big Pink by the band.
Okay.
Never really listened to the band other than I've heard The Weight in passing. Just, you know, go to every Cracker Barrel and they're playing Take a Load Off, Fanny. So finally listened to that album and I'm like, these guys are really good. It's like a country folk kind of band. With like some cool keyboard playing as well. And the fact that Bob Dylan kind of got started is really cool. Yeah, very talented musicians, just kind of doing like a roots style music. I've got the record. Sadly, that's not going to be in my top 10 albums of the 60s, but it's a very strong honorable mention.
Yeah, for me, I'm gonna go with "The Times They Are Changing" by Bob Dylan from 1964. Because when we were doing our 1964 list, I assumed that "A Hard Day's Night" was gonna be number one. I was like, "Oh, "Hard Day's Night's gonna take it." But then I also really like "Another Side of Bob Dylan" by Bob Dylan, so I knew that album might compete for number one. But but then of course I was like, well, I gotta listen to "The Times They Are Changing" by Bob Dylan, of course. And wow, I thought that album, it's my favorite Bob Dylan album now. I was not expecting that to be my number one for.
Me too. When you said that was your favorite album, I was mind blown. I'm like, I for sure thought it was going to be A Hard Day's Night. I really thought it was going to be A Hard Day's Night, but then you're like, The Times They Are Changing. I'm like, what? I'm like, hey, that's awesome though. I like that. I like the surprises, but I think that's a terrific album and a really underrated album too. I mean, besides the bookends, I'd say I think it's a really underrated album.
Yeah, I feel like both "The Times They Are Changing" and "Another Side of Bob Dylan," those are my two favorite Bob Dylan albums now.
And they're like the biggest deep cut albums for him.
Yes, I don't think people talk about those albums enough. I think they're really. I love them because they're all folk. I mean, there's no folk rock yet. It's just him and a guitar and harmonica. That's like all you need.
I know the Byrds must have been listening to those two.
Yeah.
They cover a lot of stuff from those two.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That is true. Yeah. But yeah, I was kind of that way. I was like listening to it and I was like, I really like this album. Is this my favorite album? It's like, could it be? And I really had to think hard about it. And I finally was like, yeah, I know. And I have it on CD. It's in the box somewhere. And I've listened to it again. And of course, "The Times They Are Changing" is one of my favorite Bob Dylan songs. So I knew that. "God on My Side" is so good. That's another favorite of mine. I really love that song. Lyrically, it's so good and all this. And I don't have the album, but I think there's like "Spanish Leather" is on there maybe, and it's really good. And there's a couple other ones I can't think of top of my mind, but yeah, like you said, mostly deep cuts, but the deep cuts are so good. And I think I just love that style of Bob Dylan. I kind of find myself going, I love Bob Dylan even though I like his folk.
Were you going to be one of those people who's like, wow, Bob Dylan goes electric? No.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, electric. It's like, I like Highway 6 Revisited. I like Blonde on Blonde, whatever. All these other albums, but it's like, I don't know. I really love that early Bob Dylan period. And that was a big discovery for me where I was like, wow, this is way better than I expected anyway. So that really brought up my list.
Did you hear "Bringing It All Back Home"?
Yeah, I heard it. I wasn't a big fan of it for some reason.
Oh, because that one's like it's one side acoustic and one side electric.
Yeah, I don't know why I wasn't into that one, and a lot of people like that one. I was like, I don't know, for whatever reason, I wasn't into it. Briar's in the chat here, so let's see what he's gonna say.
Someone must have mentioned Queen.
Let's see.
Oh yeah, Grand Funk Railroad. That's a very heavy album.
Good.
I so that's it didn't make my top 10, but I liked that album enough to buy it.
I think that was late '60s, and yeah, that was
9.
'69 probably. Yeah, and that was one of Briar's favorite. He was the only one, yeah, I think that had that on his list.
It's a strong honorable mention for me.
Every step of the album. I like that album too. I was in my top 10 of that year, so I agree.
It was my number 11 album of 1968, so it barely missed. I wanted it to be there.
Yeah, that was a good one. All right, so my next category is what was your favorite artist new discovery? Was it an artist that you kind of discovered the first time in the '60s?
Well, kind of what I was kind of recapping what I said before. Etta James.
Etta James.
Never heard of her. Didn't know anything about her. But yeah, I hate to repeat myself, but Etta James. Please listen to her.
Yeah, mine was the Guess Who, Canadian rock band that I know pretty much nothing about other than I think I heard American Woman once or twice on the radio. And so I checked them out because I've heard a lot about them, and I know Randy Beckman, the guitar player, went on to make his own band who did like You Ain't Seen Nothing Yet and Taking Care of Business. And so I was like, well, they seem to be kind of like a big deal, and apart from Rush, kind of the second biggest band to come out of Canada. So I had to listen to their first album, Wheatfield Soul, and right off the bat, These Eyes was just like, wow, this is such a cool song. The keyboard playing was really good. They just had a vibe that I really liked. And then it just got even better on their second album. Laughing, Undone, stuff like that. Really good. It's kind of their first two albums are a little more mellow and soulful, but then it's not a '60s album. It's early '70s. But American Woman is my favorite, and I just put that on the album exchange, so I won't say too much. But that one's kind of more rocking, and that's my favorite album by them. But yeah, I don't think I would have really gotten into them if it wasn't for this series.
That's a good one. For me, I was looking at my list, and there's one artist that had 4 albums in my top 10s, and that was Ricky Nelson. I was not expecting to have so many Ricky Nelson albums, but they're all, I should say, they're all 60 to 63. 64 on, there's no Ricky Nelson album in my top 10s, but from 60 to 60, he's my most consistent person from the early 60s, 63. So I was like, I got to put him on there. I actually really liked Ricky Nelson's early stuff. I got one album. This is my favorite album. So Ricky is 21. Yeah, I thought it was actually a good album. Yeah, it's like one of those people I know, I've heard of. I know his big hits and stuff like that. But of course, and this caveat is that the early 60s was not that good as far as it wasn't a lot of great albums in the early 60s period. So his name shot up my list every time because every year he had an album and I would listen to it and I go, yeah, I like this. I don't love it, but I'm like, this is actually pretty nice compared to what I've been hearing in 60, 63. I don't know. I just enjoyed his overall sound, and he had kind of this, kind of, I don't know what you want to say. It's hard to say. I don't know if you want to say it's pop music. It's like this. The early period, there's these, they like having these young men, sing these songs, and they're not quite pop yet, but they're like, I don't know what to call them, but they're nice. They're not great, but they're like, there's a lot of nice stuff in there. But yeah, so I put him on my favorite new artist discovery is discovering the Rick Nelson albums. Anyway, so that's on my list. Let's see what Briar's got to say here. Favorite discovery in terms of band artist is Cream. Okay. Yeah.
Eric Clapton is one of the greats.
That's interesting because him and Nick, I think, have gone all through the Cream albums.
Yeah, only 3 albums, so it was a really short series.
Yeah, not too many albums, luckily.
Eric Clapton was in like a million bands after that.
Four albums, I should say.
All those solo projects.
I know.
All right, the last category I thought would be fun to kind of think about is what would you think are the 3 top artists of this decade, the 1960s?
Ooh.
I know it's kind of hard, but number 1's easy, but then after that, except there's 2 artists I think we all will agree on, so I'm kind of curious if you guys will.
Yeah.
I definitely say the Who for me, obviously, even though they didn't have any. They had number 1 for my generation for 65, but that's about it. But still, I'd say the Who, of course. The Kinks, of course. They actually, the Kinks and the Beach Boys. The Beach Boys.
Yeah,
I think they didn't go a single year so far since they've been as a band that they haven't been on my list. I don't mean as number 1, but on my list. And yeah. But I'd say the only band that repeated for me was the Kinks, so I'd say they're definitely worth being in the top 3 for sure.
Yeah,
So, top 3.
the Beach Boys definitely had by far, I think, the most albums on your list.
Yeah, I'm a huge.
They dominated your list of the 60s.
Yeah.
Number 1 has to be the Beatles.
Yeah, of course.
Now the thing is, are we going personally or just like or do you think like objectively?
I guess personally.
Okay. Because I can list my top 3 favorites, but I think what the direction I'm going to take with this is the 3 artists I think define the 60s the most.
Yeah, sure.
And the Beatles is number 1. Number 2, I'm going to go with the Rolling Stones.
Okay, yeah.
From their early years as basically being like the anti-Beatles, like the Beatles were like the clean-cut guys who wore suits, so the Rolling Stones were like kind of like the more like the bad guys, like you know you don't mess with us. We do the rock and blues covers, and then they went on to kind of get an identity of their own when they did Aftermath, kind of breaking away from the blues covers and taking the elements of the blues but really making it their own and helping to define rock music. And then number 3 is going to be kind of a tricky one because there's so many. I'm going to go with Simon and Garfunkel.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I considered several options before I said that. I was that close to picking the Doors, but I'm going to go with Simon and Garfunkel instead. Yeah, just really just exploded in the 60s. They only made one more album in the 70s, Bridge Over Troubled Water, but it seems kind of like everything they released was huge. Following The Sound of Silence. Before that, they were kind of an unknown duo, but then Sound of Silence kind of catapulted their career. You got amazing stuff like Mrs. Robinson, Feeling Groovy, Scarborough Fair. Paul Simon, I think, is one of the most underrated songwriters. I could have went with Bob Dylan as well. If I'm going to go objectively, Bob Dylan probably should have been number 3. But I'm going to go with Simon and Garfunkel. Just because here's the thing that should tell you just how big of an influence Simon and Garfunkel had. After they broke up, like they did not perform with each other, and then in the early 80s they had one reunion concert in Central Park, and they said it was going to be free. And if you watch the footage, there are so many people lined up there to watch Simon and Garfunkel do their reunion concert.
Yeah,
like they made that big of an impact.
That's true.
Sail on, silver girl, sail on by.
Yeah, so number 3 was hard for me. It was between 2 people Simon Garfunkel or Bob Dylan, and I'm gonna go with Bob Dylan for number 3, which is I hate not putting Simon Garfunkel in there because I love Simon Garfunkel.
I did Simon and Garfunkel, so we got
it. But then I thought I got to put Bob Dylan in here because his influence was so great in the folk movement, the folk rock movement. The Beatles were influenced by. I mean, Birds, of course. You know, it's like I don't know. So much was influenced by what he did, and then he just put in some of the biggest albums of the decade, including, like I said, Times Are Changing and That's All Bob Dylan. Absolutely love those two albums. They're my two favorite now. I mean, even Will and Bob Dylan's got some really great stuff on it. And then Highway 61 Revisited is considered is best. It's got my favorite song on it, and one of my favorite 60 songs on it, like a Rolling Stone. It's so good, you know. And then you got Blonde and Blonde as well. Yeah, so just the impact is just too great that I couldn't keep him off number three. And I love his stuff. I'm not into his stuff after the 60s. Like I kind of really, I don't know, it really breaks off for me after the 60s for Bob Dylan. Like I love, like I talked about, you know, when we did, I was talking about his Blood on the Tracks. I think is a really great album. That's in the 70s. But besides that, I'm not like really into Bob Dylan after the 60s too much. So, but yeah, put him number three. Number two, I had to put the Beach Boys. They just had so many great hits in the 60s. It was just undeniable. And of course, Brian Wilson just passed away. So it's very sad, you know, to go, wow, like what a great impact he made with the Beach Boys and his ability to arrange songs and write songs and whatever. I mean, Mike Love wrote the lyrics, but he was the guy that wrote or arranged, like I said, wrote the music and arranged the music, whatever, and was able to put in all those harmonies in there, I think, and the melodies and all that. So it's just some of the best pop music ever made, I think, the Beach Boys, I guess I would say. Pop music, ballads, whatever. And I mean, undeniably, Pet Sounds. We'll talk about this, of course, but what a huge album! But then all other albums too that they did before that were really great too. I had a lot of albums in my top tens from 62 to 65, I guess. After 65, I don't really have any Beach Boy albums in my top 10, but between those, at least those 4 years, you know, Beach Boys made it every year into my top 10. And some great albums anyway. So yeah, Beach Boys had to be in there, and of course Beatles. I mean, they're the most dominant band of the decade. Obviously, my favorite band of all time. And like I said, I got 5 albums in my top 10. That's how good they are. And there's some good albums that didn't even make it in there that I like quite a bit. And I think, what was it? Because they had my top album of 63, 65, 66, 67, I think, something like that. So there's like for the years they were number one, and then they were number two a couple other times and one time they were number two because they had 2 albums that year, so they hit number one and number two. So anyways, but yeah, of course, what can you say about the Beatles? But as a group, I would say the Beatles and the Beach Boys were the bands that we talked about the most amongst us that did, especially me and Nick when we started, and then when Brian joined and all that. Lots of Beach Boy albums and a lot of Beatle albums. So to me, if I say as a group, those are the top 2 bands I think of the 60s, just based on what we put in our top 10s anyway. So I thought that was kind of interesting to look at because I gave you all the stats that one day. I looked at everything and I was like, this is how many Beach Boy albums we have, this is how many Beatle albums, this is how many, you know. Of course, we had like Johnny Cash was in there in the early 60s for Nick. He dominated a little bit there until, you know, the other bands came in. And like I said, the Kinks and the Who the Rolling Stones, you know, did well. But definitely Beatles and Beach Boys. They were just at a tier of themselves, in my opinion. Breyer says the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, and the Beach Boys. See, there we are again. The Beatles and the Beach Boys. And Rolling Stones definitely are up there.
That's kind of like, if you add Led Zeppelin in there, that's probably like the big 4 bands. Not just of this decade, but just kind of in general.
Yeah, definitely all. Every band we mentioned definitely deserves to be in there. But anyways, or artists and whatnot. All right, so let's get to our top 10 favorite albums of the decade, which, I mean, this is an incredible decade. So these are incredible albums I'm sure we're all going to mention here. So I don't know. Do you want to go first, Nick?
With my number 10?
Because I think Scott usually doesn't like to go first.
No.
Do you want to do the 10 through 6 like we've been doing?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Okay. Let me pull up my notes. My number 10 is going to be Just For You by Neil Diamond. So
Yeah.
We're going to be talking about this album
Yeah.
on our album exchange. So I could see why I picked it for our next album exchange. I really like this album, and it's one of those albums where there's like so many hit songs on the album, whether it's his version or a different version that would end up becoming the hit version. Like "Girl, You'll Be a Woman" isn't technically a Neil Diamond hit, but it got used in Pulp Fiction, and that became like the well-known version of the song, I'd say. Another one, "Red Red Wine," again, technically isn't a Neil Diamond hit, but it's definitely a song that would end up getting known for a different reason. Of course, I think the Neil Diamond version's way better. I can't stand the UB version, UB40 version.
Terrible.
Terrible version. Uh, "Cherry Cherry," very catchy song. She got the way to move me. She got the way to groove me. That's a great song. It's a fun song.
Yeah.
Of course, "I'm a Believer." Obviously, the Monkees version's the big one, but his version's great too. "Shiloh." That's a great song.
That's so good.
Shiloh, ba-bum, ba-bum. It's another great one.
Song.
"Solitary Man,"
Mhm.
cool. And thank the Lord for the Nighttime. Great album closer. So those are the hits. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You got 7 out of the 11 songs being like recognizable songs. That should be a sign already how great the album is. But the 4 deep cuts are great too. "Long Way Home" is pretty great. "You'll Forget" I really like. "The Boat That I Row" I really love. And You Got to Be a great song too, but overall it's just a great pop Neil Diamond record. He's not known for pop records, but this might sound weird, but to me this is his best album.
Yeah.
But you agree?
I haven't heard all his albums, but I can see that being the best one.
Yeah. "Odyssey and Oracle" is number 9 for me. Get a little Baroque pop into this.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a sucker for that. But yeah, "Odyssey and Oracle," great songs. Carousel 44. That's an awesome opener. "Rose for Emily" is such a great song. "Emily, Emily, can you see there's nothing you can..." The harmonies too is also great. "Maybe After He's Gone" I love. "Beechwood Park" is cool. "Brief Candles" is great. "Hung Up on a Dream" is really awesome. "Changes," cool psychedelic song. My favorite song on the album, which is the most Baroque sounding on the album, "I Want Her, She Wants Me." I want her, she wants me.
The song that everybody said they hated, but now everybody loves.
Yeah, and everybody loves it. I love that song.
Liked it.
I never hated it. I just thought it was one of my least favorite when I heard it. "This Will Be Our Year," something I tell myself as a Mets and Rangers fan every year. Great song nonetheless. "Butcher's Tale," really cool visualization of World War I.
Yeah.
"Friends of Mine," I like the part when they start naming people at the end, even though they would end up breaking apart. Funny. Then "Time of the Season," that's a great song. "It's the time of the season, bum bum bum, when love's high." Yeah, great record. My number 8, "If You Could Believe Your Eyes and Ears." Yeah, this one is really, really good. It's the first Mamas and Papas album. And I've said this before, those first 2 Mamas and Papas albums are really, really good. Those are like the big 2. And we were talking about it on we were talking about the top 100 albums, how the averages.
Yeah.
So ended up being on there.
Yeah, it was on there.
Monday, Straight Shooter, Got a Feeling, I Call Your Name, Do You Want to Dance, Go Where You Want to Go, California Dreaming, Swedish Harlem, Somebody Groovy. Just a really good bubblegum pop album. Yeah, really good record. Number 7 for me, Arthur, or the Rise and Fall of the British Empire, or however that long title, whatever that long title is, I don't feel like picking it up right now. Another really good 60s record, Victoria, should have been a big hit. I don't know why. It's too fun of a hit. It's too fun of a song for it not to be a hit. It was a single, but it wasn't a hit single, which is weird to me. Yes Sir No Sir is great. Yes Sir No Sir. Some Other Sun is great. Driving. Sorry, Cramser. I'm gonna have to disagree with you again. I love the song.
Answer.
Brainwash is great. And Australia, that's another great song. Shangri-La, me and Jason could agree that's an awesome song. Rest of the album's really good too, but those are the songs I'd like to specifically mention. And number 6, barely missing my top 5, Pet Sounds by the Beach Boys. And yes, again, next time I make my top 100 albums, you guys have to make sure I put that on my list. Is Pet Sounds on your list? It's gonna be on your list. I'd be like, yes, it's on my list. I not only did I fleece it once, not only did I fleece it twice, but I fleeced it 3 times on my list.
Oh,
yeah, I know. Big mistake. Like, I don't know why. Every time I look, I don't even like listen to the album for. I just look at the album like, it's on everyone's list, you know.
Right, yeah.
Like an idiot, and then like when I listen to it for real, I'm like, why isn't this not on my list?
This is why it's on the list.
This is why it's on everyone's list. Yeah, obviously Pet Sounds is the big one. I don't even have to say much about it. Every song on here is great. God Only Knows, Would It Be Nice? Carol I Know, I Wasn't Made for These Times. Here Today. Just every song on here is just, it speaks for itself. There's so much that's been said about Pet Sounds already that I don't even have to say anymore.
That's true.
I mean, I'm sure Jason and Scott will have their in-depth thoughts, but
yeah,
all I say is listen to Pet Sounds. This is the best time to listen to Pet Sounds. Not that Brian Wilson, unfortunately, passed away, but that is my number 6. Pet Sounds.
All right, Scott, what's your 10 through 6?
My number 10 is going to be Led Zeppelin 2.
Okay.
Zeppelin. Great rock album. Kind of points to where the 70s are going. You got classics like Heartbreaker, Whole Lot of Love, Ramble On. There's some underrated stuff on there too, like Livin' Lovin' Made. Thank You is fantastic. Bring It On Home. Yeah, really good kind of blues-based rock album there. Great drumming from John Bonham. John Paul Jones, great bass player. Great musicianship there. Number 9, I'm going with Odyssey and Oracle by the Zombies. Really cool psychedelic album. I love the use of the keyboards on there. They're kind of making like fake orchestra parts using a keyboard. Cool experimental stuff. Time of the Season is amazing. Rod Argent, such a cool keyboard player, whether it be using that string setting or doing the organ or the piano too. Just a great psychedelic pop album. Number 8, we had to get the Rolling Stones on there, so I'm going with Let It Bleed, my favorite album by the Rolling Stones. Got a couple of Stone Cold classics there with You Can't Always Get What You Want and Give Me Shelter, which are the bookends to the album. Monkey Man. It's so funny hearing him sing, I'm a monkey! but the best part is when he goes, I'm a cold Italian
pizza!
I don't know why, but I always get a kick out of that.
Yeah.
Between that and I'm a Monkey, it's just a funny song. You Got the Silver. Keith Richards sings that. It's a psychedelic. It's like a psychedelic blues song, and it's really cool.
Like a country blues song. It's weird.
And then the big song on here that was my best discovery when I first listened to this was Midnight Rambler. That's a really cool song, and it has a lot of cool jamming on there. That's all the stuff on the B side. You got Love in Vain, cool country song. You got the country version of Honky Tonk Women on here. You got Live With Me, where Keith Richards plays the bass and has a really cool groove. Yeah, it's a really great album. Number 7, I got Tommy by the Who. Kind of the album, between that and Sergeant Pepper, those two albums kind of pointed towards like, what if rock music could be taken as a serious art form, telling a story using motifs that come back in different songs. And it's funny because the story's not even my favorite part of this album. I like the actual music the best. The story's kind of far fetched. I'm more into just like they use different musical ideas that are reoccurring throughout the album, like the "See Me, Feel Me," that you can hear that all over this album, or like the bump 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 no 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 down down down. They use that a lot on there too, or the "Listening to You, I get the music gazing," or like the the "Tommy, Can You Hear Me," stuff like that. I love that they made a whole overture to this album and kind of tie the themes all together. And of course, this has one of their most well-known songs, "Pinball Wizard," which that song rocks.
Yeah.
Yeah, great album there. Roger Daltrey, this is kind of the album where he finds his voice. And if I was to go with all of their albums taken at a whole, I think this is probably Keith Moon's best drumming performance as well. I think his very best drumming performance is on "The Song Is Over." But if we're taking the album as a whole, I would go with this one here. And of course, you got John Entwistle, who's like the greatest bass player ever on this album. Number 6, we have the first appearance of the Fab Four with Rubber Soul. Sgt. Pepper and Rubber Soul were the first two Beatles albums I listened to. Both are amazing. When I first listened to Rubber Soul, I was like, all these songs are just so catchy. Of course, I listened to Rubber Soul because I looked at the track listing, and a lot of songs I liked from the Red album were on Rubber Soul. The Red album has so many Rubber Soul songs on it. And so I was like, I'll listen to that. You got "Baby You Can Drive My Car," "Norwegian Wood," "Michelle," "Nowhere Man," "Girl," "In My Life." Just like such great songs. The rest of the album is fantastic as well. "Think for Yourself," "The Word," "Even What Goes On," I like that one too. "If I Needed Someone," that's a really underrated song by George Harrison. Yeah, just a great kind of folk rocky album. Kind of the Beatles dipping into folk rock. Well, with that and Help.
Yeah.
The two albums where the Beatles kind of dipped into folk rock because they were hanging out with Bob Dylan a lot. So kind of taking inspiration from him. If you'd asked me my top 10 albums of the 60s like several years ago, this album would probably be a lot higher, but there's a few I think that have overtaken it since then.
Yeah. Let's see what Briar has here. All right. Number 10, The Velvet Underground.
I don't get that one.
I know Nick likes it. I think Nick likes that one.
I don't
That's
get
a great album.
I don't get it either. I'm not a fan. But
I like some weird stuff, but that's too weird.
yeah, Briar really likes this album. I was looking at because what's his name?
Lou Reed.
Because we talked about him when we talked about glam rock, so I kind of did a little background on him. It was interesting, but this is definitely what they call avant-garde, which I've never really heard that term, but avant-garde rock or something like that. And it was pretty unique for the time period, I think. And the manager of the band was Andy Warhol, the artist. So very interesting music. Very popular.
Good way of describing it.
It's a popular album, at least retrospectively. People really like that album, or it was very influential.
Yeah, I think it's weird.
You got music for the Big Pink from the band.
That's a good,
pretty big one.
I think this was Briar's favorite album of that year, if I remember right. Whatever year that was.
in 68.
68, yeah, because you were there, I think. Yeah, so it must have been 68. Yeah, Briar's a real big fan of that. Has The Weight. My favorite song is actually the last one.
Oh,
Shall Be Released.
Wheels on Fire.
What's that?
The Wheels on Fire.
Wheels on Fire? Oh. It's something like Shall Be Released or something like that.
Oh, no, I Shall Be Released. Sorry, this Wheels on Fire is the second last song.
anyways, so there's a couple really good stuff on there.
Mine is Chest Fever. That one's got really good organ on it.
8, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band by the Beatles, a huge, huge album that came in '67.
What's with everybody putting that at 8?
At 8.
Hey, Nick,
Yo.
look what's at 8 again.
Oh yeah. Number
Somebody
8.
else have it at 8?
No,
Nick-
it's just on the Beatle ranking, I guess.
When Nick and I ranked the Beatles the first time, he put that at 8, and then he put Who's Next by The Who at 8.
I think I put Sticky Fingers at number 8 as well.
All the big albums are number 8.
All the big albums are 8. Yeah, I'm sure somebody will talk about Sgt. Pepper's here, but obviously, yeah, one of the great albums from the Beatles. Let's see, you got The Band by the Band, so another 2 band albums from Breyer. I really like this album. This was one of my favorite albums of, I guess it might have been '69 or something. Yeah, I love Cripple Creek. Was it Down on Cripple Creek? Yeah, it's so great. The Night Old Dixie something. Anyways, that's
Dixie.
yeah, a lot of good stuff on the album. And we got the Beach Boys Today. Yeah, another really great album.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I really like that album. That was actually one of my favorite Beach Boy albums. I think that was Breyer's favorite album, '65. Yeah. All right. Okay, so for me, number 10, we're going to start. And I should say, these are all, of course, 10 out of 10 albums. And they all finished like top 3 in whatever year they're in. So first we got Parsley, Sage, Rosemary, and Thyme by Simon Garfunkel. Actually, my favorite album of theirs is the '60s, I guess, and my second favorite all-time Simon Garfunkel album. And this was my third favorite album from 1966, so that's where it kind of placed. '66 was, I would say, yeah, '66 probably was my favorite year of '60s. '65, maybe, it's hard to say. '65, '66 are so good. Anyway, so yeah, this coming number 3, and it's in my top 10 of the decade. And I love Simon Garfunkel's, of course, sound overall, but Scarberry Fair, absolutely love that song. Some of the best harmonies I've ever heard in a song. Homeward Bound, one of my all-time favorite. That's probably the biggest song, my favorite song on here. The biggest song on here. It's so good, so catchy. Love the, longing to be home and all, being on the road and all that. Cloudy's really good too, by the way. Good deep cut. 59th Street Bridge song, Feeling Groovy. Another, man, what a great laid back song. A huge song for them. Love that one. For Emily, Wherever I May Find Her, really great deep cut. One of Garfunkel's best vocal performances, I think. Really like that song. And then 7 O'Clock News, Silent Night. What a cool closer with the news reports over them singing Silent Night. Man, what a cool song to end it on, I think. But yeah, so many really big hits, great deep cuts. Yeah, definitely one to check out for Simon Garfunkel. I mean, you check almost all of them. There are only 5 albums, so you can check all of them out. But it's definitely up there for me. Number 9, we already got the Beatles for me, and that is the White Album. It's funny. Oh, there it is. I was like, that's not the front. There's the front. It's hard to tell. It says Beatles there. Yeah, I mean, it's called the Beatles actually, but we'll call it the White Album. Yeah, this was my second favorite album from '68. Yeah, surprisingly didn't make my top album, though it's one of my favorite Beatle albums. It's the only double album. I'd say my favorite double album of all time. It just got 30 songs, and I would say there's like 24 are really good. There are some bad ones here. That's why it's not higher on my list. It would be higher if the bad ones weren't on here, but I just love it's just such a cool variety of songs and genres that they've never done before. So it's just cool how they kind of just experimented and did all this different stuff, and it worked. It's like, wow, like who else can make all these type of genres work so well, from heavy metal, Helter Skelter kind of stuff, to lullabies like Good Night, the last song of the album, to psychedelic, to ballads, to uh, you got the Beach Boys sounding song with Back in the USSR. Obla Di Obla Da. I don't know what you call that. But that's a different genre. Yeah, it's like it's just hard rock. I don't know. Just any kind of genre. They just kind of. I mean, even like Rocky Raccoon. Like, what is that? It's like a Western, country Western almost type. I don't know, song, and it works. It's like Paul McCartney's just kind of talking, and then he gets into a little bit more singing. But I'm like, yeah, this works. I don't know why it does, but it does. Or even I really like the story of Bungalow Bill, the continuing story of Bungalow Bill. It's like a children's sing-along song. It's so good. Like I love it. But I mean, obviously the big one to me is While My Guitar Gently Weeps, one of my favorite Beatles songs, one of George's best stuff. And you got Eric Clapton playing guitar solo on it, which is really cool. But man, that's an amazing song. Blackbird is another favorite of mine on here. One of Paul's best acoustic guitar playing songs. Just a wonderful song. But Dear Prudence, I absolutely love that one as well. Um, let's see, Happiness is a Warm Gun. Yeah, it's a lot of really cool, just everything on here that you want. And so many, it's mostly like experimental deep cuts, but it's just so cool. It's really become one of my favorites. So that's number 9. Number 8, I don't have the album with me. I do own the CD, and that is Mr. Tambourine Man by the Byrds. And this was my 3rd favorite album from 65. Again, 65, 66 were such good years that even these albums I love couldn't make it, number 1. Mr. Tambourine Man is my favorite Byrds album. Of course, it's their first album. It basically invents folk rock, which I love folk rock music. And this really was like the blueprint for like great folk rock music, where the Byrds took, folk music and whatever, and gave it these great harmonies. And Roger McGuinn was able to come out with some really cool guitar, intros that really made the songs, like Mr. Tambourine Man, Bob Dylan song, but McGuinn made this really cool guitar intro to it, and it just makes it different, but it's still kind of the same song, but it's different, and it's just so cool, and I like it even better than Bob Dylan's version. And of course the harmonies are just out of this world good. It's my favorite Bird song. It's one of my favorite songs from the 60s. But Feel a Whole Lot Better, I love that song too. It's a Gene Clark song that he wrote and sang. Another just great catchy tune. And you got, like, I don't have the album in front of me, but I think you have Chimes of Freedom is really good on there. I had it in my head, now I forgot what song I was talking about. I forgot already what the other song I really like on there, but it's just one of those albums where all the songs sound great because the harmonies are just so good that they made every song sound like amazing, I think, in my opinion. So yeah, it's just great folk rock music for me. I love it. So number 8, Mr. Tambourine Man. Number 7, again, we've all been talking about this album, and I got Odyssey and the Oracle by Zombie. Yeah, this is definitely an album as a group we've all kind of agreed on. It's like one of our favorite albums of the 60s period. I mean, all 3 of us have it on our list already. And here, this was actually my favorite album from 1968. So this is my number 1 from 68. Barely beating out the White Album. Both albums were so great, but I went with this just because it was a little more consistent than the White Album. Because it's shorter, and it was like all good. Like, I don't really have anything negative to say. It's the best Baroque pop album I've ever heard in my life. Like, when I first heard it, I wasn't sure about it. And then as I kept hearing it, I was like, man, I love this Baroque pop sound. It's so good. There's some great harmonies in here. Like you mentioned, the keyboard is so good. I think the vocals are so good. The 2 lead singers sound amazing. They have kind of a high tenor type voices. I think that sounds great. Time of the Season, I mean, what a closer. It's my favorite song on the album, of course. It's one of the coolest songs of all time. I love that song. Always been a big fan of that. But Carousel 44 should have been a big hit. I think that song is so awesome. Like, I don't know why that wasn't like a big hit for them. Like, they only had like maybe 3 hits in their life. So I'm like, why wasn't that not a hit? Like, that was so good.
That's my favorite song on the album.
Okay, it's my second favorite, yeah, on the album. I think it's so good. As you mentioned, Rose for Emily, to me, yeah, that's real Baroque pop. I mean, so Baroque, and it's so good. Yeah, maybe after he's gone. Brief Candles, love those songs as well. Again, just the pop sound is so good. The harmonies are so good. It's catchy. Like all these songs are just really catchy pop songs. I Want Her, She Wants Me. Like I said, I love that song. Great chorus. This Will Be Our Year is great as well. But yeah, it's just like I don't know. Like I said, it's like a perfect Baroque pop album. I loved it. So made here number 7. Number 6, we got another Beatles album, and that is Magical Mystery Tour. This was actually my favorite album from '67. There's another Beatle album other people have their number 1. This is actually my favorite Beatle album of '67 instead of Sgt. Pepper's. But yeah, this album, we talk about great sides. Side 2 is one of the best sides of all time, in my opinion. Because obviously the second side is all singles that didn't make it on any Beatle album. So they kind of cheated there, but I loved it. Of course, I'm all for putting singles on albums. Like, why not just put the good songs on these albums instead of just keep them singles? Like, we could have better albums, but
Where
whatever.
was Work It Out on Rubber Soul?
Yeah, there's so many good songs that never made it on Beatles album. It's crazy. And the same problem for the Hollies, same problem for a lot of British bands. It's like, what? But I mean, side 1, I mean, with Magical Mystery Tour, Full in the Hill, love that song. One of my favorite from Paul. I'm the Walrus, one of the great psychedelic songs of all time. Lyrically, it makes no sense, but I love it. and the orchestra music is so good. That's, I think, what makes it so good is the orchestra. Your Other Should Know I like quite a bit as well. Flying Blue Jay Way, I know that's why a lot of people don't like the album because those 2 songs, or don't put it in their top 10. It doesn't ruin the album for me. I understand they're not great, but anyway, side 2 though. I mean, Hello Goodbye, number 1 hit for them. Strawberry Fields Forever, Penny Lane, it was like number 2 hit for them, but it's like the greatest double A side of all time. I mean, come on. You got a great John song and a great Paul song. I love that they put it on this album. That we got those. Like he could have put them on. He could have put them on Sgt. Pepper's if he wanted to, I guess, and it would have made Sgt. Pepper's even better. But we got an album. Baby You're a Rich Man. I mean, it's a good B-side, I think. And then All You Need Is Love, another really great, iconic, classic Beatles song. So yeah, this has so many incredible hits on it. This is kind of the great like psychedelic period for the Beatles. Anyways, terrible movie, great album.
I'm a bigger fan of the Beatles' other album they put out that year.
Yeah, I know.
Not Sgt. Pepper. That's the album name. Strawberry Fields and Penny Lane are 2 contenders for like some of the greatest songs ever made.
Exactly, I agree. All right, so that's our 10 through 6s. Now we can go through 5 through 2. Starting with Nick.
Okay, 10 through 2. My number 10 is going to be the Mamas and Papas self-titled album from 1966, the same year as the first album. I already talked about this album.
Yeah, we talked about it not too long ago.
So I'm going to keep it brief. Pretty much it's a Rumors album, except there's only one main writer, so it's like one writer having beef with the other member. But
Yeah.
I can't wait to say goodbye. I can't wait to hear you cry. Man, and I thought the Fleetwood Mac album was cruel. You want to hear someone cry, like, wow, that's evil. But anyways, number 4. Hopefully I have this album with me still. Give me a second.
Yeah.
Say it was running time.
Yeah.
You guys were expecting that, right?
Yeah.
That was my favorite album all year. Yeah, it's a terrific album. Jason was perfectly describing why to me, it's their best album. But of course, Bridge Over Troubled Water is definitely a great choice if you choose that album as your favorite. But the more I listened to Parsley, Sage, Rosemary, and Thyme, it slowly went from my least favorite album from them to my favorite album from them. It's always the one that I least listen to. Like, I don't know why I didn't listen to that album, but then out of nowhere, I'm like, I got to listen to this album. I got to listen to this album. and the more I listen to it, the more I really like it. The harmonies are great. To me, this is like a really great middle album for. It's like it has their great folksy stuff, but it has some of the great production that you get on their last two albums. Of course, Scarborough Fair's great. Pattern's pretty psychedelic. I really like it. Cloudy, that's beautiful. Cloudy,
Howdy.
sun is up, bum, 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 cloudy. Beautiful song. Of course, Homeward Bound. Homeward bound. I wish I was homeward bound. And then it goes into the big bright green machine or whatever. Pleasure Machine or whatever.
But
That's
that's
a great song. It's like kind of like a Bob Dylan-y kind of song. There's another one that's really Bob Dylan-y, but to me, it also kind of has a Bob Dylan feel to it. Then after that, everything starts to feel groovy. Love that
Feeling
song.
groovy.
And then you get the dangling conversation, which is beautiful. Then you get to one of my favorite deep cuts, Flowers Never Bend with the Rainfall. Another great harmony song. Then you get to the Simple Desultory Prolific, which that's like really Bob Dylan. I knew a man's brains is small, couldn't think nothing at all. Not the same as you and me, couldn't dig poetry. What?
Yeah.
But I love it though. It's great.
talking about Dylan.
Talking about
That's a solo Paul song. Like that's only sung by Paul. Then you follow that up with the old song sung by Garfunkel.
Yeah.
Which to me, it's my favorite song on the album.
Yeah.
For Emily, Whenever I May Find Her. I used to think of it as a throwaway song. But it's just one of those obscure deep cut songs that the more I listen to it, the more I'm like, this song gets a lot better than I make it out to be. And it's one of those songs that just slowly climb the ranks. It's in my top 10 favorite songs from them now. That, of course, Homeward Bound is up there. I mean, there's just so many songs that could be my top 10 on this album. I mean, my favorite songs still Keep the Customer Satisfied. That'll Cecilia and Keep the Customer Satisfied. Those two will never not be my two favorite songs from them. And plus, it come right after another. Like every time I listen to the Bridge Over Troubled Water album, I'm like, yeah, Cecilia, that's my favorite song. And then Keep the Customer Satisfied. I'm like, no, that's my favorite. Those two they work so good together.
Yeah.
Poem on the Underground Wall, great harmonies there too. And then 7 O'Clock News, Silent Night, great album closer. Yeah, all the reasons why Jason liked it, I also agree. It's a great album. Number 3, I'm going to go with Surrealistic Pillow, my second favorite album in 1967. I love Surrealistic Pillow. It's a great album. Again, I kind of gave my reasons why I liked it on the last video, so all I got to say is it's a great album. Number 2, The Who, Sellouts.
Okay.
That's my and it's my favorite Who album of that decade. It's not my favorite Who album anymore, but it's my favorite album of this period.
Yeah.
Of course, Harmony, City in the Sky. That song's great. Heinz Baked Beans, which is funny. Mary Ann with the Shaky Hand. That's a great song. Then you get Odorono. I love Odorono. Odorono. Great song. Tattoo. Our Love Is. Yeah, Magic Bus. Of course, I Can See for Miles. Great. I Can't Reach You. I Can't Reach You. Relax, I definitely was the biggest fan of that one. Solid Stitchy, I love. And Sunrise is great. And lastly, I got to say Ray L. Great album closer.
All right, Scott, you're 5-2.
Well, I wish I could have put Parsley, Sage, Rosemary, and Thyme by Simon and Garfunkel on here because that's a fantastic album, but I only picked 10. My number 5, and who'd have guessed I had it this low, is Pet Sounds by the Beach Boys. Of course, the news about Brian Wilson recently. I've been kind of going back and revisiting this album. Just a masterpiece, kind of a deep dive into the mind of Brian Wilson, if you will.
Yeah.
He'd kind of playing a lot for a while, making a big album. When people first said it, I didn't really agree, but now that I'm seeing it more, I kind of agree more that it's kind of a Brian Wilson project, but with the Beach Boys voices on it. Because most of the stuff was just the Wrecking Crew playing, and Brian did the orchestra, like he wrote the orchestrations and the songs, and the Beach Boys just came in and sang on it. But just a very good record with lots of themes about being young and being uncertain of the future. Wouldn't it be nice? Love that song. God Only Knows. Classic. Yeah, Sloop John B. It's a super fun song. I just wasn't made for these times. That one is super underrated. I love the theremin on there. Here Today. Really cool. I like the doom, 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 doom. I Know There's an Answer. Yeah, great stuff. Great harmonies. Number 4, I have Revolver by the Beatles. Fantastic record there. This is kind of the first psychedelic effort by the Beatles. He had some classics like Yellow Submarine. You got well, I really like Got to Get You Into My Life. You got Taxman, one of George's best songs. And you got Eleanor Rigby. That song is just amazing. And then you got a lot of songs that they're employing these weird studio techniques that they're like some of the first people to do it. Like on I'm Only Sleeping, they have a whole backwards guitar solo, which is really cool.
Yeah.
You got Here, There, and Everywhere, which I just talked about. God Only Knows. That was kind of Paul McCartney's answer to that. That's a great song. I like God Only Knows better, but I will say I think Paul McCartney wrote the better lyrics on that one. Just I don't know. I just feel it's weird to begin a love song with
It is.
I'm like, what?
Yeah, it is. That's true.
Paul McCartney writes I need her here, and but to love her is to need her everywhere. I'm just like, I like that a lot better. I don't know.
Yeah.
I like music. God only knows better. It's the harmonies that seal it for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, you got Tomorrow Never Knows as the closer, which man, that's a real drug trip of a song. But it's them. You were talking about avant-garde music earlier with Velvet Underground, and the Beatles didn't ever go full into that other than Revolution 9, which but I like when they take little elements of that and put it into their pop music, which is what they're doing with Tomorrow Never Knows. They're like taking these tape loops and making kind of like a backing track off of that, and then you add Ringo's drum beat, and it's just like, what am I listening to here? This is so cool. And then, of course, the most underrated song on that album is For No One. That's always been one of my favorites on there. The French horn solo is fantastic. Paul McCartney just writing a song about a breakup and how she doesn't need you anymore. Man, this is a tough song to listen to.
Yeah.
Like, man, these lyrics are kind of stinging. Like, I don't know what I was probably with his breakup with Jane Asher. That's probably
Jane Asher.
fuel behind it. But whoever he wrote that about, he was not happy with whenever he wrote that song. And
yeah, no.
Just like the melancholy sound of the French horn really just seals that song for me. Especially whenever the French horn solo plays behind when he sings at the same time at the last verse. Oh man, that song is amazing. And then of course you get kind of some more dumb songs like Dr. Robert, but I still like that. Telling them a story about how a dentist put drugs in their tea, and that's kind of what turned them on to LSD. Kind of a stupid song, but it's a bop if you have the if you have the stereo Yesterday and Today album, you know. Nick knows what I'm talking about there.
I don't.
I'm trying to think of what songs I haven't mentioned yet. Good Day Sunshine. I like that song. I Want to Tell You, another George has 3 songs on this album, which is weird because it's a single album. It's the most he'll have on like a single disc. Because even with the White Album, he only has like 2 songs on each disc. So for him to have 3 songs on an album was really big, and especially since the album starts with his song, Taxman, which has always been one of my favorites since I played it on the Beatles Rock Band game. But yeah, Revolver, a lot of people's favorite Beatles album. There's 3 that I like better.
Yeah, a lot to choose from.
My number 3 album of the 60s is the White Album by the Beatles.
There you go.
It would probably be number 1 if it had Hey Jude on it instead of Revolution 9, but Revolution number 9 brings it down like a lot.
Yeah.
Which that just shows how good this album is. If it's my number 3 album of the 60s and it has a song that, or a track more accurately, that I would consider absolute garbage.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some other stuff on there that's kind of bad too, but it's a lot. The other bad stuff is a lot shorter and just feels more like just them messing around to fill the album with experimental stuff. So
Yeah.
like Wild Honey Pie, Why Don't We Do It in the Road? Like that stuff is objectively bad, but it's like that stuff's like 2 minutes or less, and it. Now that I'm listening to the album more, it's like I don't know. It kind of adds to the charm of the album. That it's like, oh, you have one of the greatest songs of all time, with "While My Guitar Gently Weeps" and "Blackbird," and then a few songs later, you've got Paul McCartney doing who knows what in the studio with "Wild Honey Pie." It's like the first time you listen to that album, you're literally asking yourself, I have no idea what they're gonna do next, because every song is different than the last one on that one. Happiness is a Warm Gun. That's a really underrated song. It's John Lennon doing kind of a Bohemian Rhapsody kind of thing before Bohemian Rhapsody was a thing, putting like 3 different songs into one.
Yeah.
That one's really cool. Obla Di Obla Da. Hate on it all you want. I love it. I love the piano intro. Dun 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 dun. Back in the USSR. Love that one. Dear Prudence. That's a great song as well. Martha, My Dear, kind of got an old-timey big band feel to it. Everybody's got something to hide except for me and my monkey. A lot of people don't like that one. Maybe it's because of the bell that's just always going ding 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 ding. But I think that it sounds a lot like the Rolling Stones. I like that one.
Okay.
And then you got the heaviest song the Beatles ever recorded, Helter Skelter, on there. Paul McCartney heard that the Who was saying they were the loudest band ever and was like, well, let's you want a challenge? And he wrote Helter Skelter in response to that. You got the blues version of Revolution, which I like the single version that was the B-side of Hey Jude better. But I still think it's kind of a vibe though, putting the blues version on there. I would have rather had the single version, but it's still kind of a vibe. Revolution number 9, it's them doing musique concrète, whatever that means, and I think it's trash.
Yeah.
I definitely respect them for doing that, but I would have probably released this separately. The reason they put it on this album is because it's like, no, they knew if they were to release it separately, nobody would have bought it, and they were trying to introduce audiences who'd never heard of that kind of music to it. And so I respect them for that, but it's crap. And why does it have to be 8 minutes? Like if this was like 2 minutes, I'd be like, oh, it's just number 9 over and over again with these weird noises. It's 2 minutes. I'll just sit through it and get to Ringo singing a lullaby. But no, this goes on for 8 minutes, and some of this stuff is downright nightmare fuel. Like the part where they got like the choir singing and there's a baby crying and a fire burning. I'm like, what is this? Like, John, it's not were you on drugs? It's how much drugs were you on when you.
Oh my gosh.
I have no doubt that there was Yoko's influence on him when he made that song.
I think so.
I'll stick to the stuff like Happiness is a Warm Gun and I'm So Tired. You know, even Bungalow Bill. Those are much better John Lennon songs on this album, because Revolution number 9 it's not good. Julia, that's another really good one.
That's good.
Will kind of more acoustic songs. I mentioned Blackbird in passing, but that song is a masterpiece. I love I love how it's kind of just Paul McCartney and a guitar.
Yeah.
And then Ringo gets a chance to not only sing but write a song with "Don't Pass Me By." It's a country song. So yeah, it's really an Everything in the Kitchen Sink album. But
yeah,
like I said, if they'd have put "Hey Jude" on there instead of Revolution Number 9, and maybe the single version instead of Revolution Number 1, this would probably be my favorite album. But as it is, it's number 3. Number 2, we got more Beatles. Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. The famously known as the album that got me into albums, and the first record I ever got in my collection. This one is super cool. Maybe it's just nostalgia, but the first time I heard this, I was like, what is this? Like, I didn't know what to think of it the first time I heard it. I was like, it's too weird. Like, I know Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, that's good, but the rest of this stuff is just like, I have no idea what this is. But it was the only record I owned, so, and I liked hearing the Beatles on record, so I just kept playing it. And the more I listened to it, the more I was like, I think I'm starting to understand what they're saying with this record here. Like, this is the album that really made people think, like, can rock music be seen as an art form? Because before that it was like, oh, the album is the just a way of carrying your hit single so that people will buy that album with it's got your hit single on it. You can put a bunch of other just filler songs on that. That kind of changed with this album here. They were trying to show that it was it's more of an art form, because also people considered music like that to be just like music for the kids. This is what the teenagers are listening to. But and I mentioned this when we did our Let It Be review. If you watch whenever they're interviewing the people watching the rooftop concert, they're interviewing people of all ages, and people of all ages are like, "Oh, I like the Beatles." Some of them were like, they need to stop making noise during business hours. But like they're like old people who are like, "Oh yes, I'm quite happy with the Beatles. If this is their new record, I want to go out and buy
record." Yeah.
Yeah, but Sgt. Pepper, probably culturally the most important album ever made. The Beatles kind of taking on an alter ego band so that they can break the mold of what the Beatles had been before, kind of taking on a new image. Title song rocks. I love A Little Help from My Friends. Great Ringo vocal performance. Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. Super trippy. Getting Better. I love the effect they do with the piano where they like hit it with a hammer. The bounce, 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 bounce. Fixing a Hole is a cool psychedelic McCartney song. She's Leaving Home is, I think, the most underrated song on this album.
So good.
I've always loved She's Leaving Home.
Yeah.
It's kind of like I feel like it's the spiritual successor to Eleanor Rigby. Because it's pretty much just their voices and then the orchestra. But especially like the part where they're singing the different stuff, like whenever Paul is doing like the she is leaving, and then John's like the we never thought for ourselves, she's leaving, never thought for ourselves, and then he hits that high note. We struggled all our lives to get by. She's leaving home after living alone for so many years. Bye bye. Oh, it's so good how their voices just weave in and out of each other on that song, telling a very sad story.
Yeah.
Great orchestrations too. Not done by George Martin, surprisingly. They had to hire another guy because George Martin, I think, was on vacation. And
Okay.
whenever he heard the finished product, was sad that they didn't wait for him. But I
Yeah.
think it turned out all right. The Benefit of Mr. Kite. That's a weird song, but it's so cool. It's like you're at a circus, and the way that they made all the circus noises at the end is super cool. How they just kind of took a bunch of tapes of circus sounds, cut them up, threw them in the air, and taped them back together. Within You Without You is George Harrison doing all-out Indian classical music, which is really cool because I in college as a music major, and I was in a class that was learning about different cultures' musics, and I was assigned to do a report on Indian music. And I wrote how Indian classical music had an effect on music in kind of the America and Great Britain as well. And I used Within You Without You as an example of that in Paint It Black. So I talked about how they used the sitar in popular music over here. And they thought that was cool. They never heard Within You Without You, the professor. I thought it was cool I could share that. When I'm 64, I love it. I love the kind of old school big band feel to it. It almost feels like it's something that you'd buy on like an old 78 record. It's fun. Lovely Rita. I hated that song the first time I heard it. I thought it was the stupidest thing. It's like Paul McCartney falls in love with the meter maid. I thought that's the stupidest concept ever. But the more I listen to it, I'm like, it's a fun song. Lovely Rita, meter maid. And I love the part where it goes, which is John Lennon blowing into a comb in a wax paper. And the like yeah.
It really is a Rita meter maid.
I like the piano solo that George Martin does, kind of a ragtimey piano thing. Good Morning, Good Morning. Yes, that's probably the weakest song on the album, but the saxophones go hard on that one, and it keeps changing time signature, so it's kind of a complicated song if you break it down, based on a cornflake commercial that John Lennon was watching. And then you got the Sgt. Pepper's Reprise. I love the drum groove on that. Well, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. We hope you have enjoyed the show. Which that's within the concept of the album, kind of them being like the concert's over, but then they come back for their encore, which is A Day in the Life. Oh man, I could probably spend the whole video talking about just that song, but I'm gonna be brief because we did a whole review on this album.
Yeah.
But Day in the Life, masterpiece of a song, kind of combining two songs that John Lennon and Paul McCartney had written. Each of them had written like half a song, and they didn't know how to finish it, and they were like, well, what if we put these two songs together? And they thought that was a smart idea, but they're like, how are we ever going to like segue between these two songs? And they thought, well, let's get an orchestra, and we can have some kind of big orchestra thing in the middle. And then the other one was like, okay, cool, we'll get a big orchestra, and why don't we have every instrument play the lowest note it does and slowly get to the highest note that it can play. And professional orchestras don't like to be just told to improvise like that. They want it all written down. So George Martin had to kind of score something like that, that's really the genius of George Martin, because that it sounds so chaotic when you get to that part where it's just the orchestra's like just like rising up. It's like it's rising up, and it's like somebody counting in the background, like 1, 2, 3, and it's all building up to that big chord, that bum 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 bum, and there's the alarm clock. Woke up, got out of bed, I dragged a comb across my head. This goes back into the I read the news today, oh boy section. And of course, you get that orchestra swell a second time, but this time it just ends on that big piano chord that they played. They had I think 3 or 5 different pianos in the studio, and they got basically everyone in the studio they could, and we're all going to play this chord at the same time and see what it sounds like. And then we're going to hold it out for as long as we can. And so it's like, all right, 1, 2, 3. And then they held it for as long as they could, and whoever was recording just had the fader just slowly increasing the volume so that they could get that to last as long as they could. And because they pushed the volume up so high, Ringo stood up and you can hear his shoe squeak. I always thought that was a cool little tidbit. But yeah, Hard Day's Night has the best opening chord with that bang.
Yeah.
Best way to open the Beatles album. And then Day in the Life is the coolest chord to close the Beatles album with that bang.
Yeah.
Yeah. Love that one.
All right. Let's go to Briar. See what he's got here. A band that no one's mentioned, The Doors. Uh,
And The Doors, Waiting for the Sun, Soft Parade, and Strange Days are all honorable mentions.
is this their debut album? This is their second album. This is their debut, probably, isn't it?
Their first album. It's got Break On Through to the Other Side and Light My Fire on it.
Okay, it says, the big one, Light My Fire on it. I think this was Breyer's favorite album of that year, if I remember right. Yeah, I forgot. He really loved that album.
That's a more experimental album that I can actually get into, unlike.
Yeah, I agree. Here we got the Mamas and Papas again. So if you can believe your eyes and ears, yeah. Nick mentioned that, yeah. And they went through the whole Mamas and Papas, Nick and Breyer. So
I was actually just listening to it the other day. I've got it right.
Oh, really? Oh, the Doors. And album no one's mentioned, Blonde on Blonde by Bob Dylan. So, in fact, none of us really have talked about Bob Dylan, funny enough. And even though I talk about how much influence he is on the decade, yet I don't have an album in my top 10, which is funny.
I think Blonde on Blonde was my number 11. So.
Okay. Yeah. This was, one of his favorite was the 68. I can't remember this year, but 67, 68, somewhere in there. And I have the album. It's a double album, of course, has what's that? That first song is kind of the big one in the
Everybody Must Get Stoned.
Yeah, Everybody Must Get that. Everybody Must Get, yeah, that's good. Gosh, I'm forgetting what's on there. My favorite
Just Like a Woman.
Okay, Just Like Woman, yeah. That's
I like Your Leopard Skin Pillbox Hat. That's a goofy
yeah.
Kind of funny.
Oh, it didn't have like Stuck in Mobile, whatever.
Yeah, Stuck in Mobile with the Memphis Blues Again.
This blues again. Like, I love it, yeah.
Sad-Eyed Lady of the Lowlands. That's
my favorite song on the album, Sad-Eyed Lady.
Like one of the first songs to take up the entire side of a record.
Like 10 minutes long. It's so good though.
What else is it? All the songs are good. Was it Five Believers? That's a really underrated one.
Okay.
I Want You. That's
so bad. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good album. And then number 2, of course, probably, definitely one of the biggest albums everybody talks about is, of course, Abbey Road's The Beatles. Yeah, it's one of their biggest.
Number 2.
69.
What's going to be number 1?
Yeah. Well, I think I know what number 1's going to be. In fact, I think I know what everybody's number 1's going to be. I'm kind of curious if I won't say what they are, but so good. We got another Beatles in there with Breyer. All right, so I guess I can go with mine. Number 5, we all mentioned it. Pet Sounds by the Beach Boys. In fact, Scott had number 5 as well, so we're in total agreement here. I should say my top 5 are in my top 10 favorite albums of all time. So that's how good the 60s are. They take up half of my top 10 of all time albums. I mean, these are some of the all-time great albums, in my opinion. Yeah, as we mentioned, this is my, of course, favorite Beach Boys album. This was my second favorite album from 66. So yeah, one more album better than this. But if it wasn't for the Beatles, I mean, this would be like number 1. Like the Beatles, unfortunately, exist. So Pet Sounds is number 5. It should be higher if it wasn't for that. But as you mentioned, God Only Knows is my favorite Beach Boy song. It's one of my favorite songs of all time. The harmonies are just so great when they do that. God only knows what I be with. God only knows. Woo! When they do that, oh, it's so good. When they're all like singing 3 different, verse, 3 different lyrics at the same time, all harmonizing. Oh, it's so good. Wouldn't Be Nice. I mean, what incredible. That and Sleep John B. I mean, you got 3 of some of the best Beach Boys songs ever, some of the best pop songs, some of the best harmonies you'll ever hear. I love all 3 of those songs. And then the deep cuts are really good. Like Caroline No is probably my favorite deep cut on the album. I love that. That Caroline No. Oh, so good. Another great melody and all that. But yeah, You Still Believe in Me is great. Yeah, they're all great. I can talk about all of these are so good. I Just Was Made for These Times. It's so good. It's some of the best songwriting, I think. I know it's Brian Wilson and another guy kind of wrote all the songs together. And so he kind of co-wrote all these songs, but he arranged them all. I mean, it's just, talk about Brian Wilson. I mean, to me, this is his legacy. one of the greatest albums of all time that he put together. He engineered. He came up with all the different sounds, and he kind of works. You know, what he said. He brought everything together. You know, in the studio, and just made just one of the best produced albums of all time. So. Number 4, of course, I'm the only one that has this, but I absolutely love this album. Crosby, Stills,
Mention one.
by Crosby, Stills and Nash. My favorite album, 69. Again, just a great super group. I love you have all 3 of them here. Graham, Stills, and Crosby, who all, I guess only, yeah. So Crosby made it already in my top 10 with the Byrds, but the Hollies, Buffalo Springfield didn't make my top 10, but they're great. I love them too. But yeah, Sweet Judy Blue Eyes. They're my favorite song of theirs. Opens the album. It's one of my favorite songs of all time. It's definitely like a top 10 song of all time for me. Again, as you mentioned, 3 songs in one. That's another one where it's like 3 different songs, almost feels like mixed together. All 3 are great. All the harmonies are amazing. The musicianship is amazing. Just a masterpiece. Helplessly Hoping is another, just to me, one of the greatest songs when it comes to harmonies, and the acoustic guitar playing is so good. It's such an underrated song for me. I think I don't feel like it's a big hit song, but it should be. I don't know. That would be considered a deep cut. I don't know. But I've heard it, but it's on one of the greatest albums I have. Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young, Now, whatever, that Greatest Hits album is on there. That's why I first heard it, before I heard this album, and I immediately loved it. I know I talked about this already when we talked about our favorite albums, but Marrakesh Express is amazing. Guinevere, You Don't Have to Cry, Wooden Ships, I love that. It's another favorite of mine. Yeah, Long Time Gone. I mean, that's just. I mean, they're all good. It's just a perfect album. I think it's the best harmonies I've ever heard on an album. That's why I have it slightly above Deja Vu, just because it has my 2 favorite songs, Sweet Judy Blue Eyes and Helplessly Hoping. I mean, it's just some of the best harmonies I've ever heard, and that's why I love Crosby, Stills, Nash. Can't get enough of them with this album. And another album we'll talk about in the 70s is another amazing album that they do with Young and joining them as well. But yeah, one of my favorite groups. All right, so now we're going to get into the Beatles section, because top 3 is all Beatle albums. And I guess I'm the only one that has this album in there, Help. I absolutely love this album. I almost want to say it's like underrated or something, because it's number 3 on my list. It's just one of my favorites. This is also my 3 favorite albums of all time. So my 3 favorite 60s albums is also my 3 favorite albums of all time. Starting with this, and we talked about behind the scenes. First side is one of the best sides of all time, with Help, of course. Great opener. The Night Before, great deep cut there. You Got to Hide Your Love Away. I love that song so much. One of my favorite Beatles songs. John Lennon. It's, as we mentioned, it's like a Bob Dylan-esque, because this is definitely an album where they're influenced by Bob Dylan. But that's so good. I Need You, George's like first great song, I think, that he wrote. And I love the guitar on there. That like, oh, it sounds so cool. Another Girl, another catchy tune by Paul. You're Gonna Lose That Girl. Love the back and forth between John and the others with that. And then Ticket to Ride. I mean, incredible rock song, great guitar playing, great drumming too. So catchy, amazing. Yeah, I mean, that itself is just so good, that side. A lot of good hits there. And this side too is good too. Act Naturally is a good song for Ringo. It's it's kind of a humorous song. Country-ish, which Ringo does good with that, and good cover song. Ringo has the worst songs up to this point, and then we finally got some good songs for Ringo, so that's good to see. I like It's Only Love. I think it's a really good one. You Like Me Too Much, another good Harrison. Tell Me What You See. Again, some good stuff. Underrated. Some people don't like some of that stuff, or even John Lennon, I think, doesn't like it, but it's good. I'm Just Gonna Face. That's a great Paul song. So fast paced. I'm so glad Jacob Martin really loves the song. Like, yeah, it's hard not to like this one. It's so catchy, and Really well made. And then Yesterday, my favorite song of all time, my favorite Beatles song, just a beautiful ballad. Paul McCartney, acoustic guitar, and some orchestra music. It's what I love. Like it's like a combination of my favorite stuff in music, and just lyrically, I think just hits right at the heart of what it feels like when you lose something and you wish to go back in the past before the bad thing happened. I think it just simply, but yet catches that moment so well. In a Disney Miss Lizzie, but it's a decent rock song. But yeah, Help. Number 3. Number 2, we got Rubber Soul. I think a lot of people would put this in their list. It's one of the great Beatle albums. You had it, I think, number 6 or something like that. I can't remember. You had it in yours, Scott.
6.
I think just me and you had it in our list, but yeah, it's again, I like you talk about some of the most important albums I think of all time. I think you talk about Sgt. Pepper's, you talk about Pet Sounds, and I think you talk about this album. Those are 3 albums I think about because I felt like this was definitely somewhat of a. This was right after Help. This was my favorite album of '65. Help was my second favorite album, '65. So these are my top 2 favorite albums of that year, Help and Rubber Soul. And it's like they're kind of, like you said, changing. They're getting a little more folk rock in there. But I feel like everything, like the guitar is changing a little bit. The guitar sounds, the bass even has like this fuzzy sound to it sometimes, like in Think for Yourself, whatever. Or is it one of those? Anyways, even like Drive My Car, that song rocks. Baby, you can drive my car. It has a really rocking guitar solo, like more rocking than anything on the other album. So I'm like, I feel like that's not appreciated enough how rocking that song is. I mean, for that time period, that was a really good rock song in my opinion, for them. But a little more experimentation in this album. I feel like we're doing some different stuff lyrically, even just adding more stuff in the studio, spending more time in the studio, and it's like this album where they're just really concentrating making like one of the greatest albums of all time. In my opinion, that it's like they make this album and then Brian Wilson's like, oh, I want to make an album like this. Like I want to make one of the greatest albums of all time. Let me go and work hard in that. And then he makes Pet Sounds. So then Beatles make Sgt. Pepper. I mean, it's just like this thing where everybody's like trying to outdo each other, and that's why we got like some of the greatest music because everybody was like, and I felt like it kind of, I don't know, for me it starts with this album and then it goes to Pet Sounds and so it kind of goes in order that this kind of started this avalanche of just the greatest albums of all time. And I even mentioned Norwegian Wood. I love that song. Great acoustic, and you got the sitar, whatever. It's a kind of humor song, super catchy. You Won't See Me is so good. The harmonies, you won't see me, you won't see me. And Paul's vocals are so good. Nowhere Man, some of the best harmonies the Beatles ever did. I love the harmonies on that song. It's one of my favorites as well. And I'll just skip on some other stuff. Girl, I think is so good. Great John song. I'm Looking Through You. Yeah, amazing Paul song again. In My Life, my favorite song on the album, and is my 3rd favorite Beatles song of all time. So yeah, I mean, I think everybody in our group had this number 1 on the album. It is so good. Just great, reminiscing song. It's got harmonies. It's catchy. Yeah, it's so good. Wait is really good too. It's got some great harmonies. If I Need Someone, one of my favorite George songs. Harmonies are so good on this song. It's another very underrated one. Anyway, so yeah, Rubber Soul, another groundbreaking album for the Beatles. All right, before we go to number 1, we'll talk about some honorable mentions, and I'm sure we all have plenty of them to talk about. So, Nick?
I'm going to pass on the honorable mentions because I have way too many, and I know Scott has quite a bit, so I'll just pass it to Scott.
Okay, Scott.
I'll try to limit to the amount. Parsley, Sage, Rosemary, and Thyme by Simon Garfunkel. Anything The Doors released in the 60s, minus Morrison Hotel. I like that one, but it's not my favorite. Rolling Stones, Beggar's Banquet, and Aftermath.
Yeah, that's a good one.
The Who Sell Out and My Generation. Um, Simon and Garfunkel, Bookends, and Sounds of Silence. Some more by the Birds, Mr. Tambourine Man, and Younger Than Yesterday. Beach Boys Today. Is there another Beach Boys album that I really like in the 60s? All Summer Long by the Beach Boys. That's a good one if I get around. Band music from Big Pink. Canned Wheat by the Guess Who. And Jimi Hendrix, Are You Experienced in Electric Ladyland?
Oh, yeah, that's a great one.
Trying to think of anything else. I know there's probably some more, but
I know.
I can think of. Oh, Led Zeppelin 1.
Okay.
And trying to think of anything. There's so much good music in the 60s. Oh, Buffalo Springfield's first album.
Yep.
Crosby, Stills, and Nash. I forgot you'd mentioned that one. That one's really good. Court of the Crimson King by King Crimson. Kind of a weird album, but it's kind of a cool vibe. Started progressive rock.
Yeah.
Briar mentioned Grand Funk Railroad. I'll do that album. That was,
yeah.
I already said Aftermath by the Rolling Stones. That's a good one. Bob Dylan, Highway 61 Revisited.
Yeah.
And honestly, anything Dylan released in the 60s, but especially Blonde on Blonde and Highway 61. I'll go ahead and just stop there for now. There's probably a lot more, but that's just. Oh, and I'll just say A Hard Day's Night as well.
Oh, yeah.
Magical. Sure.
Yeah, all the other Beatles albums you didn't mention.
Anything else by the Beatles that I didn't?
Yeah.
Apart from Beatles for Sale.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, there's 4 albums that were 10s that didn't make in here. I just want to mention first. Buffalo Springfield. I thought Nick would have that in his top 10, and it barely missed out on my top 10.
It's an honorable mention for me.
Yeah, it was like between Buffalo Springfield and Parsley, Sage, Rosemary, Thyme. So that barely beat out Buffalo Springfield. That album is so good. I can't believe it's not in my top 10. I love that album. Renaissance from the Association. I love that album. I love the Association. They have great harmonies as well. The Times They Are Changing, like I mentioned, that was my favorite discovery. I gave it a 10, and it was my favorite on 64, my favorite Bob Dylan album. Yeah, it sucks I couldn't get that in. Also, I had Beach Boys Today. I gave that a 10 as well. That's a really great album from the Beach Boys. And I didn't give it 10 right away. I kind of had to re-listen to it and then gave it a 10. I did want to mention Etta James's first album I really liked, At Last. And I didn't write them all down. Dion, he had my favorite album, this 61. I can't remember the name of it now. Benny King had my favorite album, 62, which I'm forgetting the name of that one too, but they were good albums. Please Please Me was my favorite album, 63. And then 64, as I mentioned, Another Side of Bob Dylan, A Hard Day's Night were great on that year. I want to mention Leslie Gore had 2 albums I really liked in the early 60s. And both me and Nick liked them quite a bit. I'm forgetting the name of them, but that was a surprise. I was like, Leslie Gore, that was pretty good. She's a pretty good pop singer. And I mentioned Rick Nelson. I liked a lot of his stuff. Also, yeah, Bob Dylan. I can't believe no one mentioned Highway 61 Revisited, even myself. That is
honorable mention.
That's probably number 1 on a lot of people's lists, and we didn't mention it. It's such a good album, but it didn't make it in there, unfortunately. I also want to mention Inside Out is such a good Association album as well. Love that album. Headquarters, I thought that album was so good by the Monkees. That was my favorite Monkees album, surprisingly. I didn't think I was going to love it, and then I listened to it, and I was like, this is really good. Like, I can't believe I haven't really listened to this before. Also love Daydream by Loving Spoonful is a great album from them. Also love Happy Together by the Turtles. I don't know. There's a lot of great folk rock music that I absolutely love in there. mid 60s period that I think need to be mentioned. Led Zeppelin 2, Tommy, great albums from 69. Yeah, lots of great stuff to talk about. Anyways, but yeah, so let's get to our number ones. I think I know everybody's number one, but let's get to it, Nick. I think it's by a certain British band. Let's see.
Well, my number one, my favorite album of 1968. I mean, you guys just say it at this point. It's
Green, maybe?
We
Mr. Wonderful by Fleetwood Mac.
Mr. Wonderful.
I mean,
song's so
you
good.
guys know me so well. You obviously know this is the best album of 1968. I mean, Dust My Broom, top 10 songs of all time. I mean, it was so good. You had to do it 3 more times.
It's so good, yeah.
You had to do the riff 3 times. I like to see any other band do that with their songs. You know, they think of different things. I'm like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Don't mess with the formula, as Mike Love famously said.
Don't mess with the formula.
Don't F with the formula, guys. And Spencer was like, yes, sir. I'm gonna keep doing the same formula.
Hey,
obviously, no, that's obviously not my favorite album.
No, I get PTSD when I hear that. I have one song not from that album, but from their first album called "My Heart Beat Like a Hammer." It's like one of the only songs that I have favorited from that first album. And when I was listening to my favorite iTunes songs on shuffle, and that played, and I was like, "Whoa, no, next!" Oh, wait,
hey, get rid of
Wonderful. I was like, "How did Mr. Wonderful end up in my favorite song?"
Well, anyways, obviously that's not my favorite album of that year. My favorite album of the year is gonna be The Kinks Are the Village Green Preservation Society.
Got it.
No shocker.
No shock.
Oh my gosh, some people you guys thought would be Mr. Wonderful.
Oh, I forgot. I didn't mention any Kinks. I didn't have any Kinks in my top 10. There's so many good Kinks albums, like Face to Face, Village Green. Yeah.
There's just too many good albums. I don't blame you. Having that said, The Kinks, Village Green Preservation Society. What a terrific album. Just everything that they've done right the past 3 albums with the pop stuff. They made it into something really, really good. Of course, the first song, the title track is great. Do you remember Walter? Picture Book? Johnny Thunder. Again, I talked about this album in depth
we talked about last week.
But those 4 songs definitely need to be talked about, especially. But of course, I got to talk about Big Sky. Love Big Sky. I really like Village Green, the Baroque song, and I really like Animal Farm. And Wicked Annabelle, really cool psychedelic song. They don't really do psychedelic songs that often, but when they do it, they do it pretty well. Like Lazy Sun and that's all. They only did 2 psychedelic songs in the entirety of the 60s, and both songs were great. I'm like, you know what? I'm happy they did it twice, but it's better off that they only did it twice. I can't imagine a psychedelic Kinks album, so it's good that they did it in the small doses. And I believe you agree with me too, Jason, with that. Like those 2 songs were great, but I wouldn't say they're good enough to warrant a whole album of songs like that, per se. But, I mean, yeah, my favorite album of the 60s, Village Green Preservation Society.
Yeah, good pick. I believe Scott's number 1 is going to be British band as well. So
it is. And my greatest album of the 60s is England's Newest Hitmakers by the Rolling Stones. Album that has 1 original song on it. No, I'm joking. If you've watched Jacob Martin's series on the Rolling Stones, where we review that album, we all basically said that one song that the Rolling Stones were like was the original was the best song, and all the covers were kind of boring.
Yeah,
they get better. My actual number 1 is Abbey Road by the Beatles. My favorite album of all time, actually. And I have said so much about this album that I have no idea what I'm going to say here. I feel like every other video I'm talking about this album. So I'm just gonna leave it with this. This album, when I first heard it, was unlike anything else I'd ever heard before. I was like, every song on here is fantastic, and then the B side is like this one continuous piece of music that just goes through so many changes and ends up with a triple guitar solo with three people, with three of the four Beatles, other than Ringo, are like doing dueling guitar solos, which is so cool. And Ringo got a drum solo too, and it just ends with that iconic "and in the end the love you take is equal to the love you make," which is, it's funny, Paul McCartney is my favorite Beatle, but my two favorite Beatles songs are by other Beatles. One of them is Strawberry Fields Forever, and then my favorite Beatles song is Something, which is on this album as well. That's by George Harrison. That's one of the most beautiful songs I've ever heard, and the guitar solo on that is fantastic. Yeah, of course, you also got Come Together and Here Comes the Sun on there. Oh Darling, one of Paul McCartney's best vocal performances. Octopus's Garden, Ringo gets a chance to write a song again. And you got I Want You, She's So Heavy, kind of a, almost like, kind of sounds like what Black Sabbath would be doing on their first album the next year. Not like quite as heavy, but it's very similar, and just how like heavy it is with that bow now now down now now down now bow now now, and like that white noise at the end, and it just keeps repeating and repeating until it just goes psh. And that's the end of the first side of the record. It's like, once you get that, it's like, what? The first time I heard that, I thought, did my record skip? I thought the record had skipped, and so I put the needle back on, and I played it again. I'm like, I think I missed the end of the song, and I did it again. I'm like, that's how the song ends? It just drops out.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, this, in my opinion, is the greatest album of all time. Even though some people say Maxwell's Silver Hammer isn't that great of a song, I think it's fun, even though Paul McCartney made them do way too many takes of it. I think it's kind of goofy, and I like the duality of, it sounds like this lighthearted little, like, sing-along jaunty number, but then you listen, it's like, oh no, this is about a guy with a serial killer who goes around whacking people over the head with his hammer. Like, that's, I don't know, it's kind of funny, just the kind of darker lyrics with the kind of bounce, just like the bang bang Maxwell's silver hammer came down upon his head. And not to mention, this is one of the first albums to prominently feature the Moog synthesizer. So that's kind of a big deal. Of course, the synthesizer back then was a huge console that you had to like spend hours programming and putting all those plugs into to get the sound right. It was a new invention, took up like half a room, but the Beatles were always wanting to try new stuff. It's most prominently used in the bridge section of Here Comes the Sun. But yeah, great album.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not my top 10. That's another honorable mention. Yeah, Abbey Roads. All right. Let's see what Briar has here. Oh, jeez.
I have an idea.
Keep suspense here. And my favorite album of the 1916 goes to, drum roll, Interviews by Sonny Bono.
You know, I saw that record at the store the other day.
You did?
I definitely almost did not buy it.
Yeah, so Briar's picking Sonny Bono solo album. Surprise. Wasn't expecting that.
I never thought he would make a solo. I never thought he could do it.
Who knew? Of course, Briar's joking.
We all have a joke pick.
Everybody has a joke one. I didn't make a joke one up. I think Nick can probably he can probably avow for that album.
Oh, it's wonderful, right, guys?
It's this wonderful, wonderful. Then maybe you're onto something.
I sure love. I love the part where he starts nasally singing. I just said that. I love that, guys.
Liked when he said it's sunny time, and he began to Bono all over the place.
And I especially love on the Sonny Cher album where he, on one of the songs where he's like, "Well, I guess this is I guess I'm cutting a record on my own.
I
Well,
never,
I didn't know I would be cutting a record on my own. I'm like, neither did I, and
neither did we.
I didn't want you
I
to.
like the part where he said, "I got you, babe," and then he gets all the babes.
Okay, so time to get serious. The favorite album from the 60s, and I guessed it. The only one that didn't have a British band, but a good album, Pet
Yeah.
Sounds. I kind of figured that would be Briar's number one. It was his favorite album, of course, of 66. It's the only album all four of us have in our list, I believe, is Pet Sounds. So just to say, it's been on Rolling Stone's number 2 for a couple decades, I think. It never moves for number 2 spot for some reason. It's one of those albums that I feel like everybody agrees. I don't think I've heard anybody disagree with that being like one of the greatest albums of all time. It's like, in fact, I remember the first time I heard about it, and everybody's like, "Oh, Pet Sounds, Pet Sounds, Pet Sounds." I was like, "Oh, I need to listen to Pet Sounds." I think Scott has the same.
Oh yeah, I hated it the first
I
time.
think he had the same story as me. Yeah, I first listened to it, and I go, "This isn't that good. This is a little overrated." I think it had too much hype on it, and so I wanted to listen to it.
Be nice, but everything else was like, this is so wishy-washy and boring.
Yeah, and then when I re-listened to it, I was like, "Holy cow! These harmonies and melodies are amazing." And I was like, "This is a good album." Everybody's right. So yeah, great pick, Briar, and of course, yeah, Brian Wilson. So it's one of the saddest, deaths we've had recently to me, because he's just it makes me sad just to think that these great artists of the 60s are passing away, and like how much longer we're gonna have. It's like we still got some Who members, we still got some Led Zeppelin, we still got the Beatles, we still got some Rolling Stones. I mean, so they're still alive, but they're getting old. So
Keith Richards is going to be the last one to go.
Keith Richards still alive. That's just amazes me. But Bob Dylan's still alive, so we still got some greats still alive. But man, it's just, I feel like a lot of sad deaths in the next decade or so. I don't know. It's just gonna make me really sad when I think about it. Right, for me, number one, I went with a British band, just like Scott, of course, and I went with Revolver by the Beatles. And everybody knows it's my favorite album of all time. I've talked about it so many times. When I talk about my favorite Beatles albums and my favorite albums, yeah, it's just a great psychedelic rock album with some great ballads as well. As you mentioned, Taxman, man, that song rocks so much. Some of my favorite guitar playing, and I know it's Paul McCartney actually does the guitar solo here, but it just shows how good Paul McCartney is. I mean, he's an incredible musician, but I still give George a lot of credit for. I'm sure he does the main riff there. I mean, it's such a great riff. It's like to me, it's the hardest rock song up to this point for the Beatles. Like, it's like, wow, they really can go a little, harder and rougher, and the guitar soloing is just better. It's just like what I said about Rubber Soul. It feels like everything's just getting a little bit better, just as the musicianship, the songwriting, the studio work is just so good. Image Eleanor Rigby is my favorite song on the album. It's one of my all-time favorite songs. I love the orchestration. It's so good. I love when the violins do like that, da, 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 like they do, it's like really quick, bum, 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 bum. And I'm like, oh, that sounds so good. Love the orchestration on here. It's so good. And it's some of the best songwriting, I think, that tells a really cool story about this character. I'm Only Sleeping. Yeah, it's psychedelic, but man, I feel this so much when I get up in the morning. Like, don't bother me. I just want to sleep. Like, that's what I love about it. But it's so good. Here, There, and Everywhere, you mentioned one of the great love songs I think Paul McCartney ever wrote. Love that one. Yellow Submarine, I like that a lot too. It's a fun Ringo song. She Said, She Said, that's a good rock song. Some great guitar playing, and I just love that first line. She said, "I know what it's like to be dead." Oh, so good. Like, what? Great stuff there. And Your Bird Can Sing.
I forget about that one when I reviewed.
You mentioned it, did you?
Once.
That is one of the best deep cuts and one of the best rock songs. One of the best guitar riffs they ever did. Yeah, it's one of those songs I didn't realize existed until I was listening to the album. I'm like, what is this song? How come no one talks about this song? This is so good. Like, it's not very long. It's just a really good rock song. Oh my gosh. for no one, again, some of the best lyrics I think ever. Uh, Behind your eyes, I see nothing. Only like, I, yeah, I know exactly what the song is talking about too. So I'm like, yeah, I feel those feelings myself, you know. Um, Cried for no one. I love that. Should have lasted years. Oh my gosh, such good lyrics. Heartbreaking song. I love Dr. Robert. It's a fun song, but uh, and then Tomorrow Never Knows. Jacob Martin. Ah, gosh, you're so wrong on this song. It's so good. It's such an amazing it's one of the best psychedelic songs of all time. One of the best experimental songs. It's nothing like Revolution 9. This has such a good beat to it. Oh, the beat is so good. I love this. The backward guitar is so cool. The whatever those sounds are is so, yeah. Like I love that. I love the experimentation on it. Uh, it's such a cool rock song that when you listen to the song with like headphones, it's like you're just like bombarded with all these sounds. You're like, what is going on? How did they come up with this? I think it's a great closer, a great rock song. Anyways, yeah. So yeah, it's just a perfect album for me. It's just so good. So many good songs on that album. Anyway, so
I'm gonna have
yeah,
to listen to that album again. It's been a while.
has it? Okay.
I kind of saved the Beatles for special occasions now because of how much I've listened to
I know
them.
I've heard them so many times. I'm kind of the same way, and I'm discovering so many new stuff. But
Every time I do listen to them, if I space it out long enough, every time I put on one of their albums, it's like, oh yeah, that's definitely as good as I remembered it.
oh yeah. So that's the end of our list. Yeah, it's great. I love going back and talking about the 60s. It's my favorite. I think me and Nick would say it's our favorite decade.
Oh yeah, it's the best decade in my opinion.
With the 70s being like a close second. They're so 60s, 70s are so good. Oh my gosh. it's it's kind of hard to say which one's better, but I go slightly with the 60s because it has the Beatles in it. It's kind of like I have to say the 60s because of that. And it's like I said, it has 5 albums in my top 10, so that's pretty crazy. Yeah, so it's been great talking to you guys. Of course, going through 60s. Hopefully, we can get to the 70s at some point. I'm up to like 74 right now as far as top 10s go. So I'm going through the 70s right now and kind of getting my top 10s together, and it's been great. But yeah, I think we've covered a lot of great albums. I kind of agree with everybody's list. There's some really good stuff here. And thank you so much for Briar for commenting. I'm sorry you couldn't be on here, Briar, talking about your albums, but great. We got to see his list as well. And he added some new stuff to the list. So that was great. And we agree a lot of like the Beach Boys and the Beatles and all that. But anyways, besides that, we'll talk to you guys again next time we come up with another top 10 list, and hopefully at some point anyways. But thank you to Nick and Scott and Briar and everybody watching this. Put out your favorite albums of the 60s, of course. I'd love to hear anybody's list and what we missed and all that. So thank you, and we will see you later.